Good morning, everyone. This is Mario Hardy coming from DC2DW, and then this is Tish Joyner joining me today. Tish, tell everybody hello.
Good morning, everyone.
So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about event coordinators and decorators, and Tish is going to pretty much give us a full rundown on all those great details, and then she's also going to talk about her actual makeup of her company and how she operates. So Tish, go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Tisha Joyner. I have been in business for almost 24 years. It'll be 24 years in May. My companies are Eight Lilies Event Planning, which is basically what it says event planning. That's parties, weddings, milestone events, kids' parties, things of that nature. And then Young and Lovely Productions is our other company, and that is our rental company. We also do design and decor with that company. So we can basically do customized props, pipe and drape, table linen rentals, anything along those lines, as well as centerpieces and body flowers for weddings. I think that was a good summary, right?
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Okay.
So Tish, how long have you been in this business?
24 years in May.
And you've been doing event coordinator and also decorator for those 24 years?
Well, for 24 years, I've been an event planner and event coordinator. But for about 12, 11 or 12 years, I've been a decorator and rental company.
Okay. And which one do you like the most between the two?
I don't know. It's like pick your favorite kid. I don't know. I like both for different reasons. The event planning part is when you get to really get to know your client. You find out about their likes, their dislikes, their favorite colors, their favorite things to do. Y'all also break bread together quite often because you go out to eat and for lunch or dinner and kind of discuss things for the wedding. And then on the other side with the decor part, the decorating, the concepts, the ideas, the creativity that allows you to have. That's another part of my favorite part of it too. So it's kind of hard to pick between the two.
Okay. What made you decide to become a event coordinator, planner, and also decorator? What was the moment that came? What happened for you to decide to go that route?
I literally was taken in for event planning when my aunt was getting married years and years ago before I ever started the business. Um, and she lived in DC and I lived in Fayetteville. And so I had to plan her wedding. This is long before the internet and you had 3,200 websites you could go to check out, different things. This is when you had to go to the library to research weddings and wedding etiquette and everything. Her doing her wedding actually gave me the first taste of doing this job. But what really sealed it for me was when my brother was getting married. And I did his wedding from a distance. I lived in Winston-Salem at that time, and he lived in Fayetteville. And I actually got the opportunity to plan and execute his wedding. And I love the way the grooms and the brides look at each other when they're coming down the aisle. Like when the groom is coming down, well, he's coming in, he's all a little nervous and whatnot. And then when he sees her, that expression of love is just huge. And when she sees him, it's the same thing. And that literally stole my heart and made me love this industry. And it's been doing it ever since. The decorating side came into play about 10 or 11 years ago when I was looking for things to enhance my clients' receptions or their events and wasn't able to find the things that I really wanted to utilize so locally. So I ended up doing them, ordering things in for myself. And it just kind of snowballed into a rental company. At this point, we have probably about 12 units of things that we offer as inventory, from tablecloths to chair covers to centerpiece items to room decorations, the whole gambit. So that side is kind of taken on its own personality. And that way, also, so clients can, if someone wants to hire me as their day of coordinator, they don't necessarily have to hire our decorating company if they already have a decorator. And vice versa, if they want to hire our decorating company, but they already have a day of coordinator, they can hire the decorating company. So they're two separate entities.
Okay. What makes you different than other coordinators, planners, and decorators?
For me, I think it's because I don't have an exact style. I think I'm eclectic. I'm not. totally a Southern belle type of decorator where I've got to have hay bales and burlap and whatnot, and that kind of thing, country western kind of themes or the Southern themes. I can do New York themes. I've done New York clients, and I've had New Jersey clients that have been come down south, or I've gone up to them. I can kind of I think I'm like a chameleon with certain things, so I can blend in. As soon as my client starts giving me the details of what they really want, I can literally start picturing it in my mind. I tell people all the time I dream in color. So I see a lot of things, and so I can see where they're trying to go with things, and then I just kind of put that together and create that. So I think that's what makes me a little bit different because I don't have a set style ever.
Okay.
I just do 4 weddings in 1 month and they're all exactly different from each other. They're completely different.
So what is it that really like what is it that you really enjoy? Because most time when a person starts their own business, their own company, is something about that thing, that moment. I know you was talking about that, just that moment, that expression that you see. But what's the overall like? What's that vibe that keeps you wanting to do this job over and over and over again?
When you get the bride and groom at the end of the night and they are just very appreciative of how everything turned out. They really like the design. They really like the look that you captured what they wanted. When you have a mom or the mother of the bride, the mother of the groom, come to you and tell you how things they liked how everything turned out, and that when you know that you've actually satisfied your customer and that you've given them what they wanted and then some, because usually I try to do a little extra across the board. That way, that makes me feel better. That makes me feel great. So when they come to me, they tell me these great things. It's really I'm just bringing their visions to life. So it's not so much about me. It's more about what their vision was. But when they are happy with that vision, that makes me move on to the next one even more excited.
Okay. So what would you say? What's the most challenging thing about your industry?
I've probably got three things that I could address with that. Number one, we're not regulated. I wish we were to keep everyone on the same playing
Mhm.
field, so to speak. Um, like the NFL is all the different teams are all in the NFL. They're doing the same thing. That's fine. It can be hundreds of us doing the same thing. But if we're not doing it at the same level or have the same expectation levels, then it's like this. It's all over the place, and that part I don't like. So I wish we were more regulated. Um, Another thing about my industry is, and that's not just for planners, that's for all vendors in this
Mhm.
industry. I really wish there were
You're right.
more
It is.
regulations.
We were just talking about
Because
that last night for about DJs. You're right.
yeah, like for
Regular.
instance, you talk about caterers, they have to be licensed, they have to do this and that. Not all of them, because there are some mom and pop ones that do it out the house or whatever like that. But for the most part, there are some guidelines that are set up for catering, and most venues follow those guidelines, the state guidelines in their venues. Why can't we have the same thing for planners, decorators, DJs, videographers, like what photographer? Why can't we have the same thing across the board? I don't understand that part. Um, Another thing that I would like to see done more often in our industry is more of us working together as a unit versus being separate entities during an event. Um, if for instance, there was an event that I know about. Um, you happen to be involved in that event where there were a caterer did not show up, and the planner had to
Remember that?
jump
Yep.
in and take care of getting the food so that the guests would have something to eat. Her first concern was not going to say, "Hey, I need this money for this, that, and third." She took care of it. She did her job up, above and beyond what most planners may have to do. But all of the vendors stepped in and served on that line,
Right.
and it didn't matter what hat they wore when they walked in the door. Everybody's concept and everybody's reason for being there was the customer service. And that's a big thing that we don't have in this industry all the time. I'm not saying that we don't have great customer service out there. I'm just saying not everybody gives people that.
Right. And I agree with that because, like I said, it's more of a team effort.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have vendors that come together quickly, and then you'll have some that just stand alone and then do their own thing, and they're not
Hmm.
not trying to be part of the team. I agree with you on that.
Yep.
And what was the third one?
My third thing about my industry, I guess I'd like to see it improve is and this is going to sound really crazy because I do these sometimes. Bridal shows. I really wish bridal shows would focus more on the services that they're bringing to the clients. A lot of times the bridal show producers tend to think about the money they're going to make off of the show
Right.
instead of the quality of the vendors that they have in the show and the quality of information that they're passing along in their show. That's the last one.
Okay. So,
I probably got 30 more, but I'm not going to tell you all those.
oh, right, right. I mean, that's why I said three is good. Those are actually three good ones. So,
Thank
like,
you.
what would be like, what would be the thing that you would like your customers or future customers and clients to know about you, your company for 2023? What can we expect from your company in 2023? From your excuse me, your companies in 2000.
Okay. Well, we are doing more certification with our team members, getting more of them certified as day of coordinators. That's one big step that we're doing this year, so that we'll have more than just two or three. Well, we have three coordinators right now on our staff, but I'd like to actually certify two more members of my team so that there's more of them available for different events. Um, Also with Eight Lilies, we're doing more of the referral list out to clients. I'm adding more vendors, a more of a good variety of vendors that are also budget friendly to our vendors list. So when we send out vendors lists about DJs or photographers, you have a good variety of people. I'd like to up it to 10 people per list. I know that's a lot in our world, but I think that gives people a good variety, a good choice variety. Um, for Young and Lovely, there's a lot of new inventory that we're bringing in this year and that we're going to be putting out there for this year. So we've got new love tables on board, new champagne walls, new grass walls that we're doing, more neons that we're doing for parties and things of that nature. We definitely have the Mr. and Mrs. Um, neon for weddings. We're also doing a few more of the Mr. and Mrs. tables for our weddings as well. So we're bringing in new product, and then our linen selection is about to increase. About a good 12 to 15 more high end linens that we're bringing in for this year, so customers will have an even broader a range of things to pick from.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If you said something a few minutes ago to make me I've heard this over the years I've been in business. Certification.
Okay.
What does that mean? The word certification, when you're talking about event coordinators, planners, and decorators,
Hmm.
when you say certified, what does that mean?
Basically, let me give it to you in a different way. Um, we're asking people to spend money with us for our services, right?
Okay.
Your DJ services, my planning service, my decor services, my decorating services. You're asking people to invest in what you can do, but you also need to invest in yourself. And I think it's important that you put the money into the training that you need to give high quality service. Because here's the thing, um, I could be a wedding planner that's not certified and probably do a really good job. But experience and knowledge working together make you a more valuable asset to a client. Because in those days where things go crazy, like the one we were just talking about, you actually have the presence of mind of how to spin things so that they still run smoothly. No one gets no one is even aware that there's a hiccup in the day, and you get everything to work. If you lack experience and knowledge, that may not go very well unless you have vendors with you that are experienced and more knowledgeable than you, and that really should not be how that is. um I feel like there are everyone has lanes. They talk about, stay in your own lane, stuff like that. And it's good to be in your lane, but it's also good to understand what the other lanes do as well. And when you go when you go to get certified, you learn about photographers, you learn about DJs, you learn about the services they provide. That makes you more knowledgeable. So when you're talking to your potential clients, your potential customers, you can explain, why is this DJ price this amount? Because of these services that they offer. Okay, you're not. I think a lot of people tend to think they're paying for one day. No, that's maybe the one day of the setup. But what about the days prior to, with the getting the music together, or getting the gobos together? There's all kinds of different things that are coming up to that day. So certification for me was important, because I felt like if I want people to invest in me or trust me, I need to make sure that I am knowledgeable, along with being experienced in the field. So I am certified as a wedding and special events planner, and I'm also certified as a director and as a decorator. So that was important to me, so that clients would at least know I have the knowledge as well as the experience to provide them with the services that they need.
Okay. So like one of the things, and I know this is one of the things my guest speaker had said yesterday, this love hate relationship that the event planner coordinator has with the DJ. What's that all about? Kind of give me some give me some insights from when a planner interacts with a DJ entertainer. What's the like what's that all about? Because like I know last night, DJ Easy had shared some things with us in reference to, we've all had some episodes with each other. We've had episodes where the DJ doesn't get along with the planner, and the planner don't get along with the DJ, or they bump heads and things of that nature. I know most of the planners I work with, majority of the ones I work with now, we all get along because we have a good working relationship.
Mhm.
But how important is it that the DJ and the planner work together? I mean, what's the like? Give
On a
me some
scale from one
insights.
to ten,
Yeah,
on a scale
kind
like
of,
from 1 to 10, it's a
right.
12. Because honestly, think about it. Or I'm saying this as if you're not a DJ. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this as if you're not a DJ. Um, I may put things pen to paper and put certain things in place as the planner or coordinator for that day. The DJ pretty much is like the, okay, a conductor and an orchestra.
Right,
I'm a conductor. He's the orchestra.
right.
You understand what I'm saying?
That's,
One can't work well without the other.
right,
It just doesn't. And he's provided the soundtrack of my day for my clients.
right.
That's important, because if things are not going um, on time, and things are not going, cues are being missed, a lot of things can be thrown off with that. So it's always great when the coordinator, and you meet with your DJ ahead of time. You don't just wait to the day of or the day before at rehearsal to meet your DJ. You schedule meetings with your vendors ahead of time, period. But with your DJ, you guys have to work in unison that day. It is so important, because one of you being off track with the other one can throw a lot of stuff out of whack for the entire day. And that is not good customer service.
And that's one thing. That's another thing I want to kind of stress is the power, the how much power when you look at a situation. And I think this is what I've seen in the past is when something goes wrong, the first thing they want to do is blame the planner.
That's
Um,
no the thing.
I mean, it's the thing, but like, explain to me as a planner, how much power do you really have? Because let's say if you have a client and they want to do something that's completely, I ain't gonna say weird, but I'm gonna say the norm. They want to do something that is not the norm. And as the planner, how difficult does it make your job?
Oh, that can make it really hard. Um, the thing is that I'm gonna give you an example. I had a wedding some years ago where we had like a we had belly dancers at the reception.
Okay.
Um, and the belly dancer was thrown at me about 3 weeks before the wedding. Everybody was already, all vendors were already on board with everything that was already going on. Um, I'm not even going to mention the elephant part. That was a whole nother thing that was before the wedding. But the belly dancers. So you had to make sure the music was submitted to the DJ. Make sure he could, he got the music. If there was a way that, because they had I think they had a CD that they had the music on. I had to make
Mhm.
sure that DJ had a way to play the, because not everything is meant for CD play because they're usually playing from their playlists and stuff like
Right.
that. So that threw kind of a little bit of a monkey wrench in our day. Not the day of, but like prior to the day of. But my power is limited to the edge of what the clients want. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like I can give advice, I can direct you to good people, but I cannot control other people. That's not what I'm wanting to do in this business anyway. You want to give recommendations based on your experience. You want to give recommendations based on pricing or based on capabilities, things of that nature. But a client has a final say so. So if a client throws monkey wrenches into the day, it may look like it's the planner who didn't do her job. It may look like it's the DJ who didn't do his job, but it may not even be us. 99% of the time, it's not us. It's usually the client or an immediate family member that's throwing monkey wrenches in our day, either right before it or the day of.
So when you have a situation, and I know this is one of the things a lot of DJs were talking about before, is when we have a situation where the DJ is putting the timeout, I call it the timeout corner, away from the dance floor. Um, as I know, as you as a coordinator planner, you kind of know that the best place for the DJ is to be close to the dance floor, but
Hmm.
because of clients' numbers, sometimes it does not permit us to be able to get close to the dance floor. Um, how can we fix that problem where the like overall the DJ is, because I know most of the time some planners just go along with the client and they don't kind of stress to the client the importance of why, like in some cases, like let's say the cake does not need to be near an area where there's a high traffic area,
Correct.
or the DJ doesn't need to be in the corner, or the food doesn't need to be by the bathroom. These are things that
Yeah.
certified planners or planners that are have a degree, we all know these things, to where we shouldn't do those things. But when you have clients that don't know any better, how do you go about trying to convince them that this might not be a good idea to do these things?
A lot of times we can solve some of that stuff with venue visits. If you take a client to the venue, maybe on a weekday when the venue is not super busy or whatever, you can go in and kind of just map things out in person for them. People are very visual, so me explaining it with words may not work, but showing them how, if you have your DJ way over there, he's more than 50 feet to 100 feet away from the dance floor, how's he going to be able to coordinate anything? He can't even see the door. Like, you have to show people.
Right,
That's one of the things that I use to kind of help with certain scenarios, because a lot of times they don't understand only this particular wall at this venue, depending on the venue, may have enough plugs for or electrical outlets for your equipment. Like,
right.
telling them that, or you can use drop cord, but not if it's going across your dance floor, or not if it's going, what I'm saying, a traffic area where people will walk
High
and get
traffic,
tripped.
right, right,
Yeah, so you have to look at the liabilities. So for us, for me, it's a matter of, if I can get them into the venue and show them the physical, I don't know, limitations sometimes that certain venues will restrict you to, be it spacing, be it the outlets, be it the way that they standardly set up a room, but that doesn't it may not work for this particular setup. And so you can do that. A lot of times you kind of, and you don't want to go into a back and forth with your customer, but sometimes you end up in a back and forth of, well, I recommend that you do this. Well, I want to do it this way. And you don't want to come across like you're trying to be super pushy, but you're trying to make sure that the integrity of their event is not sabotaged by their need to just be right or in charge. You know what I'm saying?
right. And I
So
think that's
that's
one.
a slippery slope at times, I think.
And I think that's the biggest issue is like if a client is hiring us to do a job, um, they kind of should listen more to what we have to say, because we're the subject matter experts, and what
Hmm.
we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the event that they're having, regardless if it's a wedding, birthday party, we're trying to make sure that it
Mhm.
goes off and it's a good event.
That's
And
correct.
that is, I think that's the biggest problem, is that nowadays we have customers, we have clients that do not want to listen, and they want it their way, and that their way will cause problems. Um,
And it could also cause unneeded expenses,
yeah, yeah,
you know, just by, here's my thing. Um, Someone hires you as their DJ entertainer for their event, be it a birthday party, a wedding, or whatever, but they don't come you and you tell them, because I've seen your presentation a few times. You tell them if there's ever anything that you need help with, reach out to me and let me know. You know what I'm saying? And then
right.
they don't, and then they hire this videographer from, I don't know, I don't want to pick a city and sound like I'm picking on a city, but they hire this videographer from
Ten city.
wherever,
What did it say? Yeah,
yeah, wherever,
Bug City. Right, right, right,
and whatever your city, USA kind of thing. They hired this videographer, but he does not have the type of equipment that will work with the DJ's equipment. That means you're gonna have the two different sound things going on. It's a lot that goes into that customers don't know. And but you might have had three videographers that were available their exact same date, whose equipment is compatible with yours, who know how to plug into yours for their sound and whatnot for the event. But they chose this random person over here. Maybe they had a great reputation with 10 other people or five other people or two other people. But there's got to be a bit of compatibility. But they don't know that part because they're not on this side of it. They're on their side of it. Does that make sense?
yeah. It makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
So from their perspective, it's a videographer. From our perspective, is does the equipment match this equipment? Does it will it work together? Um, how's he going to set up? Like we start thinking about logistics of everything, the room, how things are going to work together. There's so many other things that come about other than you hired a videographer. Oh, okay, great. But there's like a 30 questions right there, right, that have popped in my head about this videographer and how things are going to work the day of.
Right. So let me ask you this. So this is the next big question I have, is the cost. Um, when we sit down and the first thing you do when you talk to a client, you talk to a customer, um, does the cost, or should I say, you back up, does the budget have a major impact on what you can do as a planner?
As a planner, sometimes, maybe 5% of the time. But as a decorator, yes. But here's where the murky waters are. It really depends more on the guest count than anything, because your guest count can cause your food prices to go up, your rentals to go up, your decor to go up. It's a lot more. It's a lot of things that kind of affect your budget. But I do, initially, when I sit down with clients, I ask them, have you set a budget? Now, here's my favorite answer. This is going to sound crazy. When they say, no, I don't have a budget. So I'll say, $1 million. And they look at me and they go, what? I'm like, yeah, $1 million. You don't have a budget, so it's $1 million. So everybody has a budget. You know what I'm saying? So
Right,
when you're thinking about what you want, what you're able to spend, willing to spend, or family members willing to spend or able to spend, you really should consider a budget. I'm not saying that $1 million wedding is not possible. I'm just saying, is it probable? um there is it could be more efficient to spend maybe 15 to 20 thousand dollars on your wedding, depending on your group, depending on what you're willing to spend. But budget should be the first thing any client thinks about from the
right,
beginning, what they're willing to spend. And do some market research. Planners can be from day of coordinators to what I call event management, to full blown full blown planners and coordinators. They can range from $500 up to 3,000, sometimes $4,000. It really depends on what services that person, and it also depends on the market.
right,
Because our market here in North Carolina is going to be different from, say, Maryland or Florida or Texas.
right,
So it really depends on the market as well. Also with looking at your overall cost, remember that your numbers, as in your guest account, will affect your catering. And your catering, and also the size of the venue that you can utilize. Those affect your budget as well. So if you have 100 guests and the caterer charges $30 per person, automatically off gate, that's $3,000 before tax, before gratuity, before travel, all of that. You know what I'm saying? So all
Mhm.
of that adds up very,
So
very
what
quickly.
so what would be your idea? I know that in school, they used to teach us. I know the planning number was like $125 per person. That was back in 2018. So if someone was trying to put together a budget, what would be the number count for their guest? When I say number count, like if for per guest, what would be the average cost per guest? So like if I know like in school when I was going through school, it was 125. That was 2018, so I know
Yeah,
it's higher now.
it's literally the minimum I found is 175 per person these days. And again,
Ooh,
that depends on the market. And the Florida market, if I'm not mistaken, is
excuse
I
me.
think it was 230 per person. I went, oh my lord. But I think it just depends on your market. But a good average price should be about 150 to 175 per person.
Okay,
And
so
that would include everything, you know, all your
so
vendors.
so technically, then on the low end, probably can go down to maybe 130.
Yeah, maybe.
130 for our for
Yeah,
state of North
for
Carolina.
our market,
For
it
our
shouldn't
market,
be any more than $140 per person. It should not.
$100 person.
Not for
Okay.
this market.
And what's the difference, like when you do events that are, let's say, of course, I already know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask so people understand this.
Okay.
Um, is when you have events that have less than 100 people, and then events that have over 100. What is the big difference? What should people understand? The number game. What is that all about? When I have 100 guests versus 300 guests.
Again, number one, that's a big jump between things. So let's say 100 guests. Um, you can do really great event that's more intimate with 100 guests. 300 guests, that's probably like a lot of family members that you have from coming from some everywhere, and maybe some business contacts, something like that. But uh, that 300 count, literally, you're looking at your food costs being higher, your venue. You can fit. I'm gonna use a venue in Fayetteville. You can fit. I'm gonna say this, but you can fit more than 100 people here. Let's say Intrigue venue.
Okay.
You can fit 100 people in there.
Right.
300 people, no. You can probably fit 200 people there, maybe.
Right.
Um,
200. Right. Hmm.
yeah, about 200 people there. But let's say you can fit 100 people there, and their cost is whatever their cost is. But to do 300 people, you'd have to go somewhere like,
Hope Mill Shrine.
yes, yeah, that's a very good one. Yes, Home Mill Shrine. Now your pricing may be more at Hope Mill Shrine because you've got more that you're getting. You gotta look at, you're getting a bigger space, more tables, more chairs. You know what I'm saying? You have security, the whole, it's a lot more that goes into a larger group. It's about the same amount of people work wise, but then you've got larger things. If venues charge for the building plus the cost of tables and chairs, people would probably be like screaming about the price of what they
Right.
would be charged. Because right now chairs are going for $3 and something a piece. Tables are have jumped up to the roof to $12.50, if
Right.
not more, per table now. So if you're getting a building, and I'm not trying to pick a number per se, but if you're getting a building that has the tables and chairs in it, even if they're not the exact tables, I mean the exact chair that you want, consider yourself lucky, because if they charge you a la carte, which is price per item, whew, that price would be way more money. But the larger your group, the more you're going to expect to spend.
Right.
It's just, that's the reality.
So what should in that sense, what like when should a person look at, like when they talk about these, like, and I think this is a big issue, when in what sequence would you suggest that people go when they're looking at, like, getting their vendors, their venue? What's one of the first things they should probably like get? What's one of the first things that they should, like, if they're planning an event? a wedding. Let's just go wedding. We're gonna say wedding
Okay.
because everyone in a sense is more so getting ready for weddings for the summertime coming up.
Hmm.
What's one of the primary things that they need to lock in first?
Before they even start looking at vendors, they need to talk about their guest list. They need to know a number
Okay.
of people they're going to be dealing with. Um, I highly recommend, and I know this is going to sound crazy for me being a planner and coordinator. I highly recommend getting your venue
Mm-hmm.
first, because that gives you your time frame. Because some venues are per hour. Some venues are, well, we have a block of 6 hours, or you could do 8 hours. Some people do all day from 9 a.m. to midnight. It just kind of depends. But when you get your parameters with that, you can basically, once you start hiring from your wedding planner, your decorating, your DJ, your catering, you can start getting all of the rest of your venues, your vendors behind that. But your venue affects so much more than just a place you picked out. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
The time frames, location, parking, um, flexibility. Are they vendor friendly?
Right.
Do they work with vendors very well, or are you required to just use their list of vendors? There's so many different things, aspects wise, that I think your venue should be your first priority after you finish your guest list.
And so technically, when it comes to the venue, number one, they should have a good understanding of their vision of what they want,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, they're hired. They get their venue. What will probably be, and again, looking at it from the standpoint, and you said something a few minutes ago, made me really think. When you're thinking about a venue, how much time should they allocate for that venue for that event?
If it's an all-inclusive venue, meaning you can do your ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception, if that's those are the three traditionals that are usually done for a wedding. If you can do all of them in the same location, um, I'm gonna say without decor, without the decorating or setup period, or with the decorating and setup period
No, I mean
for all
everything
your vendors
from the beginning to the
from the
end.
beginning to end.
From the beginning to the end.
Oof. At least 10 to 12 hours.
What's a
Because
safe number? I know that most venues have a 10-hour package and some have a 12-hour package.
mm-hmm,
What would be like as coming now speaking as a decorator,
mm-hmm.
what would be the ideal thing if like, we're going to use the number throughout this conversation, we're going to use the number 100 cuz 100 is kind of like the average number for most weddings.
Okay.
If you had to decorate for an event that's 100 guests, how much time should be allocated to the decorator?
It depends on the level of decor that you're providing. If you're
Okay.
doing more basics, because people don't seem to get that it takes time to put all those components on a table. And
Right.
if they have more than just what you're decorating for the table, you have a separate setup for them, a whole nother setup for the entrance, another setup for your sweet treats, another setup for your ceremony, and like there's a lot going on. We require a minimum of 4 hours, and
Okay.
that's a rush. That's rushing, to be honest with you, to
So
get everything set up. We require 4 hours for setup time and 2 hours for breakdown. So
does that
we
include
kill 6 of your hours right there.
so let me ask you this. So would that also include chair covers in that 4 hours?
Um, yes, which means I'd have to bring a, you have to bring
A
a
larger
sizable
team.
team to,
Right.
take care of that, because chair covers are no joke.
Right.
They take a minute to do. They really do. Um, but I'll be honest with you, if there's any way to get in the day before, I totally love to be able to get into the venue the day before if possible, to get some pre stuff done
So
so
then
that we're not so rushed.
for events, I'm gonna say more so for weddings.
Hmm.
The ideal thing is to get a venue that at least gives you a minimum of a 10-hour day, and then work out additional timing for setup and breakdown.
That is ideal
Okay.
for all of your vendors, because you're it's it's hard to make people understand. I can't just walk in the room and go poof pow, it's done. It takes time, and you've
Right.
got a lot of different hands going on. And I am the person that comes back behind everybody, looking at everything, trying to make sure that all the charters are lined up. Like the details matter, because in my mind, When I look at a table, I'm looking at what does a photographer see?
Right.
Because I need to make listen. It's my job to do the decor the way the client wants, but also I'm supporting my photographer that's there. That means what I'm doing is to make their pictures look that much better. You see what I'm saying? That's
Right.
that teamwork thing we talked about earlier, and being able to work hand in hand with your vendors.
And I think that's something that like that's what gets. And I think this is one of the biggest issues we have as an industry is when customers don't recognize the time management and the time that goes
Mm-hmm.
into the preparation for a wedding. Now it's different for birthday parties and things of that nature. It's a whole different story. But for weddings, it's a whole nother it's like a higher level of
It's I would say
preparation.
levels.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a higher level of preparation. And that comes like from the decorator, the DJ, the caterer, all those are important. Time isn't crucial. And the thing is when we don't have enough time, that stress level goes up, not only for us but also for the customer.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So, so what type of things? And this is kind of like the bad. I would say the opposite side, the dark side
Uh
of the
oh.
is when people choose it to do it themselves.
Oof.
When they decide to where, hey, we're not going to hire a professional DJ, we're not going to hire a professional decorator. Now, keep in mind, you're still the planner, but you're working with family members versus professional vendors. What's kind of like the give us some insights of what that vibe feels like as a planner when you
I
have to
did.
work with family member like Aunt Juju and cousin Junebug. When you have to work with these individuals, what exactly? I mean, and this happens quite a bit.
It does. That's why I'm laughing because it does. I'm gonna use a wedding that we did probably back in 2005, I think it was. There was a wedding that I did in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And the caterer was the bride's uncle, who was just a really, really good cook. He wasn't really a caterer. He was just a really, really good cook.
Right.
Um, the DJ was the groom's cousin, and it was one other. Oh, and the photographer was a friend from church. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. On the outside, I look cool and calm and on the inside, I am completely freaking all the way out because I've had not so great experiences with um, the DIY, what I call do it yourself, or
Right.
suddenly I'm a what I call shingle people. Now I can cook real good, so I'm gonna be a caterer. Just because my husband and my kids like my food does not mean I cook for a crowd of people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Um, but that particular wedding, the um, the DJ literally miscues that we went over and over and over again because I knew he was not experienced with weddings. Um, I literally brought extra linens to cover up his setup because he did not have a DJ facade at that time. That's when DJs were first getting into that part. Understanding to kind of hide their wires and cords and all that stuff. So I literally used to bring extra linens so I could kind of cover up some of their stuff so it wouldn't look so bad in pictures where they were caught in the background of a picture. He miscues. That was during the ceremony part. The photographer literally, I mean, missed some major moments during the ceremony. One was the exchange of the rings. He was on the other end of the church, and I'm at the front looking for him, and he's at the back doing something. I don't know what. And then the catering at the reception. They ran out of food,
Mm.
and only about 2/3 of the room had been through the line. I am fearful of situations like that because number one, you don't have contracts. Oh, and let me sidebar. Let me mention this: the photographer literally lost all of their pictures. He accidentally he was doing something with the thingamajig that he put in the computer, and he literally erased their pictures.
This the chips, right?
Yeah, he erased their pictures.
Mm.
So There are no contracts with family members or friends of so and so, so and so. And if there are contracts, they're very limiting. They're not etched in stone, so to speak. Most contracts can be altered or updated, which when you do that, it's called an addendum. It's when you
Right.
add on to what you currently have in the contract, or you're taking something away from what you currently have in the current contract. That's an addendum. That's an add on to your current contract. But when you have family members or friends that are doing certain things, they are not required or obligated. If y'all fall out as friends, then so be it. If we fall out as customer and client, and vendor, that's a problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, I have to be held accountable. You have to be held accountable. Vendors have to be held accountable. And that means if you have something in writing, there's something to cover yourself with as a client. And then you have all of the requests, requirements, what they've offered in writing. So if something is not done, you can check them on it.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen where where when people, and I mean, I'm gonna say this across the board. It doesn't matter if they use a family member as the planner, or if they use a, family member as a DJ, or as a user as a, if they're not professionals and they don't do
Mm-hmm.
this on a normal basis,
Mm-hmm.
it could really cause problems across the board. I know numerous times when there's family members acting as a role as an event planner or coordinator or day of director, it causes problems because you're dealing with professionals. Professionals are expecting feedback or information from that person,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you're not just attending to the bridal party, you're attending to all the vendors as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that happen numerous times. I've seen it numerous times where people just don't get it or understand that it's crucial that when you deal with people with your event, I don't care if it's a birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
that there has to be contracts put in place,
And accountability.
accountability and
Mm-hmm.
professionalism. That's one of the things. Even when I do events with family, it's still a sense of professionalism
Yeah,
in place because there has to be understanding that I am obligated to where I am going to make sure I am present to do your event.
that's correct.
And like cutting corners, there's nothing wrong with saving money.
No, nothing at
There's
all.
nothing wrong with cutting corners, but understand the corners that you cut. Because one of the biggest things I've noticed, um, and this is one of the things, is that we can't always beat up on the event planner or the event coordinator when it comes to things
But we
because
are the easy target, though.
right, y'all, hey, y'all, look, they put y'all out there. Here's the punching bag. Y'all go for it. And the
Mm-hmm.
vendors, the first ones we hit, or we go after the planner.
That's
Um,
right.
and one of the things I've learned is that the planner, and again, thank God, I mean, I have a degree in event planning, so it makes me understand the concept of what's supposed to happen versus what
Mm-hmm.
does happen.
That's
And
correct.
one of the biggest issues is is you as the planner are giving, like, here it is, here's your team. You are the quarterback of that team.
That's
You
right.
are the one that's going to throw a pass left, right, so forth. You're going to direct us in the right way. But if you're giving um, someone who's not familiar with how to play the game,
Third string players.
then it becomes a problem. And one of the things I've noticed is a person will get a photographer, and this is one of those things that drives the wedding, is they'll get a photographer, but only get a photographer for 4 hours. That's not
Which means
realistic.
we have to run through every single thing. We're in a
Jumping-
dead
We're,
set rush.
we're jumping through hoops. We're jumping through hoops to really get to
Key
really get
moments.
yeah to really get stuff done for the photographer. And so, like, most of the time now, I'm stressing that. And again, as a DJ, I've actually acting in a role as a planner sometimes to
Mm-hmm.
advise my customers, hey, if you haven't got your photographer, at least get your photographer for 6 to 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you some leeway when you don't have any leeway. And I stress, like, for example, no, this is another thing. What is the ideal time to start a wedding? As a planner, what is the ideal time to start a wedding and why?
Between 3 and 6 p.m. that gives your vendors time for their setup, their arrival and setup. Even if you start as early as 3 o'clock, that's still depending on the venue. Also, that's another thing. But if you back it up, let's say if you're starting at 3, that means everything has to be done by 2 to 2:15. Reason because guests, especially older guests, start arriving 30 to 45 minutes before the start. But I think
Right.
that 3 o'clock is like the earliest you should actually start a wedding. Um,
Right.
to keep it non-formal. You get the 6 o'clock time. That's more of a formal wedding time. But 3, 4, and 5 starts. Those times, that's a good time for a wedding because you probably had access to your venue at least by 9 or 10 o'clock that morning. So you've allowed your vendors at least 4 hours of time to get in the
Right.
building and get themselves set up and all of that.
So if you have a wedding starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, what are the what are the what are the fallouts that they're going to have for that wedding?
Um, if we can't get into the building till 8 o'clock, we're gonna have problems. If
Right.
we have not been able to get in the building the day before to preset everything to go ahead and set up the night before, we're gonna have problems
But the
because
stress level is also going to be extremely
oh
high.
my gosh, it is going to be above the roof of the building, the stress levels for all of your vendors because they're all going to be in a hurry,
Right.
rushed. And some when you rush something, something falls through the cracks,
Right.
something gets missed. Something's overlooked, something happens negatively.
Right.
If people have the time that they should have allotted to do their job. Now, let me put it this way. I'm not supposed to come to your venue and start ironing tablecloths as a decorator. That's supposed to
Right.
be done before I get there.
Right. Right.
I'm using that as a demo because I've seen that done. When I've
Right.
delivered certain things, I've seen that being done. I go, we doing that here? Okay. All right. Um, because but the prep has to be done before we get there. Now, have I done a setup for like maybe 30, 40 people in less than 2 hours? Yes, I have. But I was moving the whole time
Right.
and didn't get a chance to even take a deep breath and make sure I had everything. I was just running through everything. But that means I plotted everything out on paper ahead of time. So I knew I was checklisting myself to make sure I got everything done. Not everybody does that, but that time restraint is horrible. It is horrible. It is one of our worst nightmares as vendors, period.
Yeah.
It is
And I think
bad.
that time, and I think that's one of the things that stress to because there's so many people. There's a lot of people here. They're getting ready to get ready for a wedding this year, and I'm asking those questions because a lot of times is like even after they hire a planner, they still don't listen to the planner. Because I have a situation right now, a wedding coming up, and they didn't listen to the planner, and so they're going to do their wedding at old I was at old dark dirty in the morning, and they just don't understand the problems they're going to run into by doing it so early.
Hmm.
So what? Let me ask you this question. I know we got like a few more minutes. What would be the ideal time for a client to hire an event planner coordinator? How far in advance should they hire an event planning coordinator? And
As
then
soon as humanly possible.
so what would be the ideal time?
At least a year. I'm gonna say 9 to 9 months to a year in advance. Some people may say 6 months or more. It. I'm gonna be honest. It really kind of depends on where you are in your planning stage because, let's say, because I'm never hired first. I've been hired in the middle of stuff. I've been hired near the beginning. I've been hired first a couple of times,
Right.
maybe a couple of times. Most of them I'm hired after. Usually they have the venue already figured out, and sometimes I already have their officiant figured out, and some people will have their DJ figured out before they get to me as a decorator or as their planner, the coordinator. But I think the earlier the better. If you get engaged, like for instance, one of the biggest engagement periods of my life is always Valentine's.
Right.
Those 2 weeks following Valentine's, maybe 2 or 3 weeks following Valentine's, I get 30 or more calls a day from potential clients trying to book for their event. Now, it may not be in 2023, maybe in 2024, and maybe in 2025. But you and
Right.
I both know we have had events booked for this year, some since last year, some since the year before last.
Right. Right.
And we both have events booked this year and next year. And I have
Correct.
two scheduled for 2025 already, because
Yeah.
they're getting ready. So it's hard to narrow down a good time, but I would say the earlier the better. Because a wedding coordinator can help you with your actual guest list. One of my biggest things about guest lists, if you haven't talked to them on a consistent basis in the last 6 months, they may not need to be on your guest list
Right.
unless it's family.
Right. Right.
Okay. But a friend that you haven't talked to for 6 to 8 months and y'all don't talk on a consistent basis, don't work. Leave them towards the end. You might be able to fit them in later. But there's certain things or tips we can give you. Um, I know me personally, I have like timelines that I share with my clients to show them when we should be getting certain things completed, where we need to be with certain things at like 6 months out, 3 months out, a month out, stuff like that. Um, you can also get great recommendations from planners on your vendors that you need for your event. And I'll be honest, a lot of times you can get good recommendations from your planner, but you might be able to get some from your DJ, you might be able to get some from your caterer, your venue. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us have worked with some of the same people and then some people that are not the same,
Right.
that we can help you with certain aspects. I mentioned those elephants before. I literally had to get them from the zoo in North Carolina, in North Carolina Zoo. But it took somebody else telling me about it because they had done weddings of that with that ethnicity
Right.
background
The
before.
culture.
I
Right.
had done, yeah, from that culture, and so I had not, and I'd reached out to one of my venues and one of my planners and found out where to go to get the elephant. And I was like, who rents you an elephant? But that's something that you can do in North Carolina. I
Right.
thought that was amazing. But that came from my connections to other people
So
so
it's
that
kind of
I
like
could
well,
find out those
so
things.
to so pretty much like especially if you have one of those type of weddings that requires a lot of resources, you really want to start planning it as early as possible. And then
That's
as far
correct.
as the financial obligation,
Hmm.
um, what's the idea number? Like if a person is doing, let's just say they right now here it is, they got the drawing board in front of them on their vision, but they don't know where to begin. What would be the ideal number that they should have as a minimum for a budget for a wedding from 100?
12 to 15,000.
12 to 15,000.
That's
Okay.
a reasonable rate. You can do weddings for more money, but that depends on the count that you have. We've been basing everything off of 100 people,
Right.
right? So I'm saying 12 to 15,000, and that really depends on the venue, the food, the selection that you make with the caterer you actually hire, plus what you're asking for the menu items, things of that nature. But that should be a good number. Now, if you're wanting some whole, wait a minute, over the top kind of stuff, then you might want to double that number, or at least take it up at least another 5 to 10,000. But
Right.
it just really depends. And like I said, for this market, those are good numbers. I think the average. What's the average wedding cost in North Carolina? What 30? Was it 32,000 or 33,000?
No, this actually low. It's last time I checked the numbers, it's a little bit low. I think it's like 2022.
Okay,
I think it's like
that's
20,
a
I
great
want to say it's
number.
like 21, 22,000 is the
Hmm.
average cost. I have to go back and look at those. Now I know for last year I think it was like 21 something. 21,
Hmm.
I want to say it was 21,600. It was the average
Okay.
cost for weddings. I
Okay.
know like the numbers which some of those numbers are more so on the high end than they are on the low end, but it's like an
Hmm.
average of the two.
Hmm.
But yeah, but that's one of the things I've stressed to people that is money and time are two major conflicts that if you have the money and you give yourself plenty of time, you're going to have a great wedding day.
Yes.
But when you do stuff last minute and you don't have the money, you're putting more stress on yourself.
Yeah. Way
So I
more.
tell people like when you do that engagement, that's the moment. That's the moment in time that the financial obligation and planning and timing need to start right then and there on what to expect. The like how many people y'all going to invite, when you want to get married. Give yourself time to plan it.
Hmm.
And then when you plan it, be realistic. I can't stress that along. I mean, like Have you ever had this episode? And I know you have, where people are just not realistic with their situation.
Very much so. Um, I love the internet, but I hate the internet because they can go to Pinterest and Instagram and this, that, and the third, and they can look at all these different things. I was just saying this to a client earlier that usually I try to get my brides, once they pick their theme and whatnot, to stay off of those things. But the thing is that when you see all those posts, people are not telling you what these things cost.
Right.
Draping a ceiling in a tent costs. That's labor, let alone
Right.
the materials, but it's labor. Draping the ceiling of a venue is a huge cost because that's a lot of labor that goes into that. Um, Flowers, live versus silks, it's a cost.
Right.
It's not only just the purchase of flowers, but it's also the mechanics that it takes to put that together.
It's a
And
risk too.
labor.
It's a risk when you go live versus
Yeah,
silk. I mean the fake ones because
don't say fake, say silk.
say
Fake
silk.
makes me
Okay.
think of Dollar Tree flowers.
Well, and that's the next thing I'm going to bring up is a lot of people get the I mean, they get a misinterpretation of what decorators do because they'll go and see some of the similar items in the Dollar Tree, but they don't understand that those items you see in the Dollar Tree are not really up to par on what real decorators use.
True.
And I think
Um,
that's one of those things because like everyone knows if you go to the Dollar Tree on Bragg Boulevard, they got one section designated just for weddings,
mhm.
and it's like yeah, you could do some fancy stuff with that, but at the same time, you got to think of all the stuff that you have to add to that just to make it pop.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the things that a lot of people have to understand. And the biggest thing about this is also making assumptions. I think in our industry across the board. Um, Customers make assumptions versus find facts,
true.
and that is one of those things to where like the reason why I'm doing this is to educate individuals on what really goes on because the biggest problem we have in our industry as a whole in the event service as a whole is there's too many assumptions and not enough facts that people can get their hands on.
That's correct. Absolutely
So
correct. One thing that I want to make sure there's a couple of things I want to make sure we touch on before we get off here because I know we're at an hour already. But
right.
um, one thing is reading your contracts. That's a really big thing with me. When I talk to clients, potential clients, I send them a copy of the contract with just the information and for them to read it. I don't say sign this right away, but I want you to read it. I want
Right.
you to make you understand. If you have any questions, you call me. Let's talk about the questions that you have about it. If you want to take it to an attorney and have them look at it, I don't have a problem with that either because an attorney made it for me. You know what I'm saying? So that's a big thing. Read your contracts. When a venue tells you, oh, we carry linens, that doesn't mean they carry your color linens. They just might carry some linens.
Right.
I need and I would love to see our fellow vendors be more educational when they're talking to clients instead of being in a rush to get your, you
Right.
know, your
Right.
signature on something. Be more educational. Whether a client hires me or not, during our conversation, because I do, complimentary consultations. By the end of our 30-minute consultation, they've learned something from me.
Right.
Even if it's just one thing, they've learned something from me. So whether they book me or not, when they get to the next person, they'll have a little bit more information, even if
Right.
it's terminology, whatever it may be that I can teach them. I try to teach. I wish more in our industry were more like that because
Educate the educational portion of it.
yeah, educate your clients, educate them. Make sure that you're discussing every detail, but also make sure you're listening. Stop ignoring what clients are asking you to do and listen.
Right.
It's not about you. Don't get me wrong. Yes, this is a business and we want to make money and we do pride ourselves on our reputation, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's not Mario's wedding. It's not Tisha's wedding. It's the client's wedding. So
Right.
our job is to produce what the client wants, what's going to make them happy for their day.
Right.
And my one sidebar from the whole entire conversation, which I've enjoyed this a lot, is be careful who you ask to be in your wedding because that causes issues too.
Right.
Not everybody that is your friend is happy for you. And the ones that you pick to be in your bridal party, if you are picked to be in somebody's bridal party, remember you're making a financial commitment as well as a time commitment. Be sure that you can do that. I think I respect people more if they say, you know what, I'm just not ready to do all that. I don't have five, $600, $700 to spend on your wedding with you. I don't think I can be in it. And I respect that. And I'm sure any bride will respect that. But to say you will do something and then at the last minute you're pulling out, that's devastating to a client. There's
Right.
only so much consoling I can do, or any planner could do, or any coordinator can do that can help them, because those last minute pullouts are very, very, very hard on them. They take it extremely personally. When you could have told them 10 months ago, you really couldn't do it.
Right.
That's it. I'm good. I'm
No,
good.
well,
I'm
you know what? But
done.
you did say one more thing. I'm gonna hit one more thing because this is one of the biggest issues. Also, I mean, you said something made me think. RVSP or RSVP. How critical or important is that? And I know this is one of those things that we have the biggest problem across the board is for people to say,
Mhm.
"I'm coming to your event. Reserve me a seat." How critical is that?
Remember that per person number we discussed earlier?
Mm-hmm.
125 to 140. When you RSVP, you're making your friend, your family member, whoever, whatever that association is, you're making them spend that money on you. The least you could do is show up. They didn't
Or
ask
let
you to
them
pay
know
for
in
your
advance,
seat.
or let them know in advance that you're not going to
Yes,
come.
let them know. Because let me tell you something, 45, 30 to 45 days out from any event are crucial time frames. A lot of final numbers are due. That's when I can take and say, okay, instead of me having 100 guests, I'm having 73 guests. And the caterer can adjust the pricing so my final balance is a little bit different
Right.
versus you telling me you coming and I'm depending on you 27 people to show up and then you don't show up. I kind of understand the bride that sent the bill to the people that didn't come to her wedding, because
Right.
you're not looking at the money that she spent
Right.
for you to occupy a seat.
That's been going on a lot lately
Yeah.
now where people are actually, I think I've seen it now 5 times now where
Yes,
people
brides are not
are
playing about that money
suing,
because they see it.
they're actually suing the guests for not showing up
That's right.
because they RSVP. And I mean the bill was ridiculous. I think one person was being sued for $350 because they RSVP and didn't come to the wedding.
Hmm.
So RSVPs are critical. I know it's important. So if someone happens to send you RSVP and you know you're going, please let them know so that they can count you. Or if you're not going to go, at least let them know you're not coming so that you're not. I mean, you think about it. Anything over $100 and you're spending on somebody, and that person or those individuals don't show up, that's a lot of money being wasted.
Yeah, I know. And let me tell you this like this. Let's say I go from 100 people to 74 people, 70, let's say 72 people. That literally just took out some tables that I don't have to have set up, tables I don't have to have decorated, centerpieces I won't have to have, charge
Right.
plates I won't have to have, glass, like it erases
Right.
several tables of stuff, or at least a table or two of things. Being considerate, meaning I'm saving that money, because a table seats 8 people at even at $100 per person. That's $800 of my budget
Right.
for just one table, and that's on the low end.
Well, the last question, and I know we're a little bit over, but that's okay. The
Okay.
last question is, what is the end goal when it's all said and done? When someone hire you as an event planner, coordinator, decorator, um, what is the end goal? Like when you sit down with a customer and what is the overall thing that you're trying to achieve with that customer?
The vision that was given to me, I executed, and they're happy.
Okay. All right. So y'all hear that? I mean, it's if you give us the right time, the right money, um, and the right resources, you can have the perfect day. But a lot of stuff we discuss in this little, I guess you could say, this show that we're doing right now was to kind of educate people on
Hmm.
different aspects of what goes on with the event coordinator, and decorator, and in some cases the actual director of the event. And Tish, look, want to say thank you for joining us and sharing this information and knowledge. I
No
hope
problem.
people who are out there they learn a little bit. My thing is, as long as we're properly out here educating, if you learn just
Hmm.
one thing from here, then we did what was we accomplished our
That's
goal.
right. That's right.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be it. I do have another show coming up here at 2 o'clock. Oh, wait a minute. We have hold on, let me show.
Love the questions. Hey,
Yes,
Cherise Carter.
great informative information. Okay, thank you, Ms. Carter. So this is again. I know I have another show at 2 o'clock. Going to introduce a new. Um. Oh, got another one. Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Angie.
So and it's just to introduce another DJ, coming into the community. But
Oh,
again,
great.
Tish, thank you.
No
And then
problem.
Tish,
You know, I
also
enjoyed
let them
myself.
know if people want to reach out to you and talk to you some more. Let them know how can they make contact. How can they make contact with you?
You can always reach out to me via phone. My number is 336-478-7500. You can inbox me through one of our business pages, which one is 8 Lilies event planning that you can read right there on the screen, or Young and Lovely Productions. You can shoot us an inbox through there, or you can just, if you see me on Mario's page, because I'm usually on there, definitely send me an inbox via Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whichever one. But definitely, you can reach out to me anytime. I'm pretty open to chatting with people. I do offer complimentary consultations because it doesn't cost anything to talk, right?
Mhm. That's it.
All right. You guys have a great day. Thank you, Mario.
All right, and Tish, just hold on. We're gonna go backstage here. We're gonna chit chat afterwards, ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen.
sir.
We'll see
Okay.
you. I'll see y'all in a few. I know I got another podcast here at 2 o'clock, so we're gonna welcome a new DJ into our actual community. And but well, I like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back. I'll see y'all in two. All right, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.